Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün ABD'nin Köklü Üniversitelerinden Kelvin Üniversitede eğitim ve burs imkanlarını Tara ve Zek'ten dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı questions kısmından sormayı unutmayın. Yes, Tara, the stage is yours now.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for joining us today to find out a little bit more about Kelvin University and also about navigating financial aid in the United States. Joining me today is Zach, and Zach is an international admissions counselor here at Kelvin University, and he would be working with the territory of Turkey. So he's very excited to join us today. And Zach will be sharing, to start off our discussion today, an aerial video of Kelvin University. Zach, would you like to share that?
Yes, I'll pull it up right now.
During this time, we also will be accepting questions in the chat option and sharing a few links. So let's take a moment to watch this great aerial video of campus. Great, thanks for sharing, Zach. And we'll go ahead and get into our presentation at this time. Just a reminder, we will be sharing links in the chat option as we go through this presentation. Some of those links may be to our website or to further videos that you can find out more about Kelvin as well. We will also be taking questions in the chat box, so feel free to be asking those along the way as well. So welcome to Kelvin University, and this presentation is going to focus on navigating financial aid in the United States. So as we go through this presentation, you'll be finding out some hints and some information about financial aid, different types of aid that are possible, and then I will also apply it back to Kelvin University and how we look at financial aid here. So just to start off, you may be wondering, where is that beautiful campus that you just saw the video of, right? So that campus is located in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And you can tell from the map there where we are centrally located within the state. We are about 2.5 hours away from Chicago and 2.5 hours away from Detroit. We do have an international airport in Grand Rapids as well. It actually does not accept international flights. So most students will fly into Chicago or Detroit and then fly into Grand Rapids to reach campus. As you could also see from the video, we have a very green campus. It's very vast and very open. And in the video, it doesn't show quite just justice to the look of campus right now. We are in the month of June, and so that means for the state of Michigan, we have some really gorgeous flowers blooming and just tons of green trees. Today it is raining. It is a much needed rain because we have been very dry, but having beautiful, beautiful days at this time of year. Calvin University consists of about 3,500 students on campus. We represent 65 different countries, and we have a 13% international student body on campus. You can really feel that throughout campus, and you can see it. We are a very diverse campus, and you have that experience throughout the classroom as well. But we don't stop there. We incorporate international perspectives into our curriculum and into a lot of things that we do on campus. So we take the aspect of international very seriously at Calvin University. Now, let's talk a bit about financial aid. So the first step towards your financial aid journey is going to be to complete an application at a school. And completing that application consists of submitting the required documents that you see. And you really need to pay attention to timelines. You are going to hear me say this quite often throughout this process, that you really need to be looking at timelines. That is very serious because I don't want you to miss the opportunity to be able to accept additional aid options. You also need to look out for application fees if there are some. Now, the notification of admission would come either through an admission email notification and or an official admission letter that you may receive either in the mail or through email as well. So let's take a look at some of the documents that are required at Calvin University that I was just referring to. So when you apply at Calvin, you can use either the Calvin application or the common application. We accept either one. We do ask for your secondary school or high school transcripts to be submitted. If you have taken the ACT or SAT, we ask that you submit those as well. It's optional, so I just want to stress that. It is helpful as you submit and are considered for financial aid options. So any school right now that is test optional will explain that to you, that it's helpful if you do have some kind of test score. And that test score could include TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo, which are also English proficiency tests that you could submit for admission. So again, that is optional, but it's best if you have one that you do submit that. A copy of your passport is commonly asked for. Now at Calvin University, because of how we do financial aid, we do have a request for aid form that you can submit. And with that request for aid form, we do ask for some financial documents. So I will explain that in a little bit here, a little bit further. But you may see an optional recommendation letter as part of your application package. I would highly suggest that you do submit a recommendation letter. It's just helpful to determine who you are, and it just helps solidify who you are as well. Now, within the application itself, you may be asked to submit an essay. So I wanted to provide a few hints for you for that. And when a school is asking for an essay from you, they're really just wanting to get to know you. They're also perhaps looking for a writing sample. So keep that in mind. Some topics that you could write on for your essay would be just describing a little bit about you and who you are, maybe an experience that really meant a lot to you or changed you. So we're not asking for an autobiography of you, okay? Just three brief paragraphs describing who you are and perhaps something that really impacted you in your life so far and what you learned from that as well. So if you recall, I was just talking about timelines, and it's really important to watch those. So most schools will have an application deadline that you need to apply through, or they may have an application deadline to apply for free. So at Calvin University, you can apply for free up until January 1. After that time, there would be an application fee. But I'm going to ask that Zach go ahead and share a secret code that we have that would waive that application fee for you. And if you happen to misplace this code and you are applying after January 1, please feel free to email us for it again, and we'd be more than happy to provide that to you. We do ask that all application documents be submitted by April 1 and that you deposit for your enrollment by June 1. So let's take a look at the different types of aid that you commonly see at Calvin, or not at Calvin University, but pretty much across the United States at any school that you would apply for. Now, Calvin is a private liberal arts institution. And so because of that, we have a little more leniency on the financial aid packages that we can offer. But this list and what I'm about ready to review with you are going to be common aid packages that you would see across the United States. So these aid packages could come across consisting of merit-based scholarships. So these are commonly scholarships that are based upon the grades of the transcripts that you submit to the school. So this is grade-based, and these are automatically awarded. This is not a scholarship that you would need to actually apply for. Now, some schools may have intentional scholarships or need-based aid that could be granted to you as well. Now, at Calvin, we do have a $4,000, it's called Mosaic Scholarship, that every single international student receives. This is one of those intentional scholarships that you may see at Calvin or at any school across the United States. So congratulations to anyone who's thinking of applying at Calvin University. You already have a $4,000 scholarship that will be awarded to you. Now, we also see donor-funded or name sponsor-funded scholarships. These are scholarships that you would actually need to apply for. And there is always going to be a date that is associated with applying for those. You may be eligible for athletic scholarships if you are considering athletics, and depending on which school you are applying to. Athletic scholarships typically are seen at the Division I or Division II level schools for NCAA. Now, Calvin is an NCAA Division III school, which means that we actually cannot give out athletic scholarships. So we don't have athletic scholarships to offer. If you are looking for an athletic scholarship, you would need to go to a Division II or Division I school. Division I may have some full rides available, but Division IIs typically do not offer what's considered a full ride scholarship. Now, the school may have institutional grant money that may be available to you. This is money that the school may have set aside just for international students. So they've made some kind of commitment to international students by setting aside institutional money to help students come to their school. There's also an opportunity to apply for outside scholarships from organizations. I do want to refer you all to Education USA offices at this time. If you have not already connected with them, it is a great resource for you if you're thinking about studying in the United States. They will offer opportunities to learn about other additional scholarships outside of a school that you're looking at. They also have resources for you for preparing to take tests like the ACT, SAT, or any of the English proficiency tests that I explained earlier. But they also may have a program available that would prepare you to come to the United States, prepare you to come to an American campus, and then also provide insight into your visa appointment as well. Some of the locations also have mock visa interviews. So again, if you have not connected with your local Education USA office, I highly suggest that you look into that. Now, most campuses will have on-campus jobs available to international students as well, which is an additional way to earn funds as you study. So the next step would be, let's take a look at financial aid, and you would actually be receiving your financial aid packages. So again, here's the timeline. word, right? You need to be looking at deadlines. Many schools will have a deadline for those named scholarships that I mentioned of February 1. That is a common date, but you have to be admitted to apply for those. Okay, so you really need to pay attention to when the application deadline is and when the deadline to be applying for those additional named scholarships would be. Now, the next item that you need to look for as you are looking at additional funds through financial aid are the required documents just to apply for those named scholarships that I mentioned. At times, you may be asked to submit an additional essay. So really, you could take a look at the scholarship and what the criteria is and kind of write about that. It could be maybe something similar like what you wrote for your application as well. Would there be an additional application for the scholarship that you're looking at? So you really need to look at that so that you're prepared and that you plan ahead accordingly with your time to still be considered for those types of scholarships. Just remember that any financial aid processing may take up to a couple of weeks to process and for you to hear back on. So this may not be an immediate thing as soon as you're admitted at a school that you automatically hear back. You may automatically hear back on your merit-based scholarships, but in regards to applying for any additional aid packages, that may take a little bit of processing time. So don't be shocked if you haven't heard back in a couple of weeks. And those donor-funded or sponsored scholarships typically have a release date to them. So what I mean by this is if you apply for a donor-funded scholarship by February 1, you may not hear back that you may have received or not have received that scholarship until a few weeks. So don't be shocked if you apply for it and don't hear back right away. There's typically a committee that meets with these scholarships and they hand choose who would be receiving those. Most notification of financial aid packages as a whole is received by email. So make sure when you apply that you are using an email that you actually check, okay? We have some students that would apply and use some odd email that they don't normally check, and then emails are going to them, very important emails, and they're not always checking that email box. So please make sure when you apply at any school that you are using an email that you check often. Okay, so I'm going to now explain a few of the items that I just described in the previous slides to you and apply them at Calvin University here. So at Calvin, 100% of our international students receive some type of aid. So if you remember, I just congratulated all of you. That may be a future application at Calvin University that you all automatically would be receiving a $4,000 scholarship. Our average aid package at Calvin University is around $24,000 US. Now that aid package can consist of merit-based scholarships. So those are the scholarships that are automatically awarded and based upon your grades that you submitted when you applied. It will consist of that $4,000 Mosaic International Student Scholarship that I mentioned earlier, and it could consist of institutional grant money. So Calvin is one of the schools that has committed funds to assist international students to come to Calvin University. And that is because we really do want to grow our international student population and grow in diversity. And we value the diversity that you bring to our campus as well. So again, the average aid package at Calvin is around $24,000 US. And we do have those donor-funded scholarships that I mentioned earlier. Now, the donor-funded scholarship application date is February 1. And as I mentioned just a little bit ago, you do need to be admitted to do that. So our application deadline is January 1. That's a pretty tight timeline in my eyes. So I usually suggest to students that if they're looking at studying at a school in the United States, that you look at actually getting your application in before the end of December. Most schools in the United States do shut down for the Christmas holidays. And that could be anywhere between a week to a week and a half that the campus is closed. So that means no one is here processing applications. That's why I suggest that you complete your application in December sometime. I don't like any student to be stressed out, and I don't like anyone to miss a great scholarship opportunity. So that's why I'm suggesting that date. And at Calvin, we do have about 1,000 flexible on-campus jobs, and international students are made a priority for those jobs. As an international student in the United States, you are required to only hold a job on campus unless it is considered a formal internship, and then you can work off campus. So Calvin has made a commitment to our international students again with those on-campus jobs. So some good questions to ask during the financial aid process, or as you are looking at financial aid packages at schools, is what is the average aid package that the school can typically offer students? Do they have any international student specific scholarships that they hold? And has the institution made a commitment to international students by offering some type of grant money? What documents do you need to show or need to apply for when you are looking at additional aid money? You also need to really consider how much will your family be expected to contribute at schools. Schools are typically very upfront with you on what they expect your family to contribute beyond the aid package. So be looking for that. At Calvin, that is very clearly laid out in our request for aid package form that students complete when they apply. And what are the requirements to keep those merit-based aid packages for all 4 years? So this is something else that's clearly typically laid out for students, in that you may have to have a required GPA for X amount of years in order to keep that merit-based scholarship. So that's really important as you move forward and you're taking a look at this bigger picture of spending extensive time on a campus studying. Now, I do want to take this time to just kind of pause and see if there's any specific questions just about financial aid at this time. And then I would like to explain a little bit more about Calvin University. Zach, have you seen any questions come across the chat box?
Yes, there's been lots of questions, and I've been trying to answer a lot of them. So thank you all so much for asking away. I do also have some general admissions questions as well.
Okay.
Unless you want to save that for later.
Yep, I think we'll save the general admission questions for later, and we'll just address any financial aid ones that may have come across at this time.
Yeah, one that's come across was about financial aid for specific programs here. Like if students admitted into a program, is there any specific financial aid for that? Or possibly applying financial aid for study abroad scholarships that they have earned recently as well.
That's great. Okay, both of those are great questions. So some of those program-related scholarships are going to go back to those named scholarships that I was just talking about that you typically have to apply for. There are many scholarships that are program-related, and even as specific as, like, if you're interested in music, this one could be applied. And so there are many of those available. You rarely ever see a list of those specific scholarships listed on a school site. For Calvin, there's thousands of them. Okay, so to see a list of everything that's available would be overwhelming. Typically, if you go to the specific academic major that you're interested in, and I'm going to pick on political science because I see somebody asked about that. If you go to that program's website, they will typically have the scholarships that are tied to that program. Now, again, the list can be very overwhelming to see as a whole. So what happens at many schools, and specifically at Calvin University, you are given access once you are admitted to the scholarship application portal, where you are shown the list of scholarships that you are eligible for. This is like a huge present to you. Because you don't have to sift through the thousands and thousands of named scholarships. We literally tell you which ones you can apply for based upon your grades, your program of interest, maybe a hobby that you stated, or where you are coming from in the world. Okay, so that's where a lot of those program-specific scholarships come up. Again, is after you've been admitted, you would see the ones that you are eligible to apply for, but they may also be listed on the program's website. So the other question, Zach, I've already have forgotten what it was. Can you refresh my memory, please?
I believe it was applying a study abroad scholarship that was previously earned for PhD.
Right. So any, we call those outside scholarships, and I'm not quite sure what the criteria of the scholarship is, but it would be interesting to look at that specific one. We do have students that will also have additional scholarships outside of Calvin applied to their account. And I say to their account because it's not typically something that is included in their overall aid package from Calvin because it's an outside source. So at that point, because it's an outside scholarship, meaning outside of Calvin, you wouldn't see it show up on your overall aid package. And that would be something that you could continue to work with that organization or institution with. So Education USA, as I mentioned earlier, is a great resource for additional outside scholarships. And that's how they term them as well, as outside scholarships. And any of those, you would work with that organization if you were to be awarded one of those on how that money would come across to your student account. So we do have students that have those. It just won't show up on your particular aid package letter from a school. That's a great question as well. Okay, if that is all of the specific financial aid questions at this time, if you have any more, please do not hesitate to put them in the chat, and I'll go ahead and address the program-related questions when I get done with the presentation then. Okay.
I do actually have one more that was slid in that was similar to financial aid. What are like living expenses in Michigan typically like?
Oh, sure. So that's two different questions to me, actually. I'll address the first obvious one in regards to living on campus. And right now, room and board, including all of your meals, pretty much all of your meals, if you choose to eat them all here, is around $10,800 for the academic year. So that is 2 semesters, and that's in US dollars as well. Now, the cost of living in Grand Rapids is the second largest city in the state. I don't think that I mentioned that earlier. Right behind the city of Detroit, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And the cost of living is very reasonable here. So you do have a requirement to live on campus for 3 years. All right, so the cost for that is around 11,000 US dollars, let's say, and that includes all your meals. However, we do have apartments that you could eventually move into if you are over the age of 21, or after you have been on campus for 2 years, you can transition to the apartments and save a little bit of money that way because you can make your meals right in your apartment. Now, our residence halls do have a common living space with a kitchen, so you could certainly make group meals, which is very common in the halls. A lot of people get together, they make one common meal, and then they share that as well. So you don't always have to eat in the cafeteria, and you can adjust your cafeteria meal plan accordingly if you plan on cooking often too. So if you move off campus, there is a lot of student living facilities right off of campus, and I'm just not quite sure what the average of them are, but it's pretty equivalent to living in our apartments, which does save you a couple of $1,000s each academic year as well. Great question. I hope that answered it, but if it did not, please let me know. So as I mentioned earlier, Calvin University is a liberal arts institution. What does that mean? A liberal arts institution really believes in offering as many and exposing students to as many opportunities as possible. And that means academically and then also outside of the classroom. So at Calvin, we do have over 100 different academic options available. Those are not all academic degrees. Okay, those are all academic options. And one thing that's pretty special about Calvin is that we've built those programs so that you can have an academic major and a minor or two. So you can actually build your own degree in the way that you want to portray it. So for example, if you study business, you could have a minor in a language and maybe a minor in political science. So that would be a great degree to have if you're going to be thinking about having a global career. Now we do have a student to faculty ratio of 13:1. So that means within your academic major, the faculty are only working with 12 other students besides yourself. Our classroom size is about 20 to 25 students. So this gives you a lot of personalized attention, not only within your academic major, but within the classroom as well. So I'm just going to pause. There was a question that just came across. What is the total tuition fee with $24,000 US scholarship? So the tuition fee right now is around $38,500. So once you subtract the $24,000 US, you would also have to add on the cost of housing then. Okay. Let's talk about student life here at Calvin real quick. And we do house about 80 student organizations. First of all, I just want to pause and mention this is one of my favorite photos of Calvin University students. This is actually at a really large basketball competition game against a rival school. And you can just see the excitement on the students' faces. And basketball is a huge sport here at Calvin, as well as volleyball and soccer. But this just really represents the really active campus that we have here. There's always something going on. It's always busy. We do have a conference center and a hotel on campus, so that really hosts a lot of conferences, symposiums, and workshops on campus. And those are all opportunities for our students to get involved in those as well. As I mentioned earlier, we are an NCAA Division III athletic school with many intramural clubs and club sports. And I was explaining the halls earlier, but we do have 7 halls with 3 living learning communities that are available too. And we are ranked number 15 in the country for Calvin Health Services. Our health services on campus is top-notch, and we are connected with a larger group of hospitals here in Grand Rapids and throughout the state of Michigan as well. We are ranked number 10 in the country for best counseling services, and that dives into tutoring services as well and multicultural programming. We also offer peer mentoring while you're on campus here. And so we really want your transition to go as easily as possible, and we want you to succeed here at Calvin. And so we have made an effort to really offer the support services to help you do that. We do have a 98% graduate placement rate in 2019, and our employment office, offers an employment partnership program. And one thing that I do want to mention is that our faculty are so well connected outside of campus as well. And they work very closely with the students at setting up internships and then also future employment opportunities too. If we were to ask, if we had a current Calvin student on with us today, and we were to ask them, what's one of the favorite things about Calvin that you have? They would 95% of the time answer, it's the faculty relationship that they have here at Calvin. The faculty really do take the time to get to know you personally and what you want for your future, and they really help you achieve that. I do want to pause for a moment and talk about a new Summer International Academy program that we will start up in 2022. This is a great way, if you are still in high school or in secondary school, to come and discover an American college experience. And it's about a 3.5-week long program. We have an academic track or an English language track, and this is open to rising sophomores, juniors, or seniors, so 10th, 11th, 12th grade. And more information about this program, I'll go ahead and ask Zach to share it in the chat. And more information can be found on our website. We would love to consider you or perhaps a family member and welcome them to campus for the Summer International Academy program. Ready for your next step. Right. So Calvin does have the application deadline of January 1. All of your application documents would be due by April 1, and the enrollment deposit would be due June 1. We would really love to consider you as a future student at Calvin University. And I have seen that Zach has been sharing contact information, and we do have a general email box of intladm@calvin.edu. And we would love for you to be researching some of the links that Zach shared in the chat and some of the videos as well. Those are always fun to see campus come to life. So at this time, that concludes our formal presentation for Calvin University. We would love to be available to answer any further questions that you may have, either about Calvin or about studying in the United States.
One question that I had received, Tara, was what's the Turkish presence like at Calvin University?
Right. We would love it to be higher. I do not know off the top of my head how many we have, but I know that we do have some students from Turkey. If I were to take a guess, it might be 5 to 10 that we have on campus. But this is definitely an area that we are looking to grow in. Most of our students on campus do come from the top 5 countries are from South Korea and Canada, China, Nigeria, and Ghana. And our top 5 academic programs that most of our international students come for is engineering, nursing, education, business, computer science, and then also biology. And that was actually 6 programs. So I apologize. I said 5 and I gave you 6.
Another question, this one's related to financial aid. Does high English proficiency scores impact financial aid awards at all?
So again, the specific aid that you are asking about would be merit-based scholarships, right? So as I mentioned earlier, if you have the one of those test scores, so either the ACT, SAT, TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo. Well, first of all, we do highly suggest that you submit the English proficiency score. That can be used to move you in the merit-based scholarship range. So Zach, if you could please share off of our website the merit-based scholarships that we have. When you see the scale that I'm referring to, you will see that it has different GPAs and different test scores associated with that score as well. And that could slide you up and down that range a little bit. And so that's what I was referring to earlier. If you had a test score, it would be beneficial to submit that for aid purposes. Okay, it would just like solidify where you are in that scale.
I had another question. What is the interns? Some students had questions about like internships and being connected with internships while they study here at Calvin.
Right. So as I mentioned earlier, Calvin is the second largest city within the state, and the city of Grand Rapids actually hosts a lot of internship opportunities, but we have students study all over the United States and actually outside of the United States. And those connections are really stemming from the faculty connections that they have. So while you're here at Calvin University, you are tied to an academic advisor, but then throughout your classes, you're also meeting recruiting additional faculty. And any of those relationships that you develop could result in a potential internship possibility for you. Now, we also have the Career Center that has channels into additional internship opportunities for you. Most of our international students get an internship because of a connection that a faculty member had, though. So it's another thing I want you to walk away from this talk with is the importance of developing a relationship with a faculty member, no matter where you go. Okay, please make sure that you take the time to network with them. You never know what kind of relationship you can build with them and how you can continue to tap into their expertise once you've graduated as well. Now, as an international student in the United States, you can do internships. It is an additional process that you just have to complete the paperwork to do so with immigration, and then you can have that experience. Most students at Calvin will have 1 to 2 internships during their time here as an undergrad. So just keep that in mind. And most of them start them between their sophomore and junior year and between their junior and senior year. And then as an international student in the United States, you can also apply to do an optional practical training period after you've graduated, anywhere from 1 to 2 years, depending on what your academic major is here while you study.
On a similar note, Tara, 1 or 2 folks had questions about taking part in research on campus. Would that be a similar process to the internship?
Great question. So again, that would be a relationship that you develop with faculty. Many faculty here at Calvin are involved in research opportunities, and they include their students in those opportunities. So you would be assisting a faculty member with the research that they are doing too. And that is very common. That students will be able to get involved in research that the faculty is doing.
And what about students that, is there rolling admissions, or someone asked about certain deadline? I don't know if you're asking about this fall or.
Yeah, that's another great question. So as you can see, I did mention that the application deadline to apply for free is January 1. Now, please keep in mind that all of these dates that you're going to see being released from schools is not only keeping the admission process in mind for you, but is also keeping the immigration process in mind for you. All right. So as you could see from the screen, documents, we say documents are due by April 1. We say that for a very good reason, because you would still need to be processed for admission and then processed for immigration as well. And you all need that time to go and schedule your visa appointment and physically receive your visa before you can arrive, right? So I don't, again, as I mentioned earlier, I don't like any student to be overly stressed by this process. There's already enough that you have to do in it. To add additional stress on yourself because you are applying really late is exactly that. It's going to cause you additional stress. And then you arrive on campus stressed, and it just does not start you off very well. So that's a really long way to answer that question. I apologize for that. But I wanted to explain why there are deadlines to begin with. Now, to answer the rolling admission question, we would love to still consider somebody if it appears as though they're going to be able to receive their visa in enough time to arrive to campus. Okay, that's how we view that right now. So we don't ever turn anybody, we don't just shut the switch off, okay? But if we feel as though you still have a really good running chance of getting that visa, getting in for that visa appointment and getting the visa in enough time to arrive to campus, we would love to still consider you. And if that won't work for the fall semester, we'd love to consider you for the spring semester. So I think that does answer most of the questions that came across the chat option, but we are available for more if there are any more at this time.
Yeah, I just asked a minute ago if anybody else had any. You could throw them in the general chat or in the questions. I'm watching both. Great.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, thank you all whoever submitted a question. That's very helpful for us and hopefully for you as well. So thank you to everybody that submitted. We had a lot of questions come through. So.
And good ones.
Yes, all of them were great.
Oh, I thought there might be one more coming across, but I don't believe that there is.
Oh, okay. A few people are typing. Yeah, take your time.
So I also want to explain, in location-wise, I don't know if how much you know about the state of Michigan, but we are surrounded by what's called the Great Lakes. And these Great Lakes are really not lakes. They are, but they don't look like it. When you see them for the first time, you think it's an ocean because you definitely cannot see the other side. And it takes hours to cross them in certain directions. On one lake, you can actually surf on a good/bad day, because it usually means bad weather's coming, but it is possible on days to surf on Lake Michigan. So they are absolutely gorgeous. We are very blessed to be in the state that we are in, and so close, only 45 minutes away from one of those Great Lakes. Wonderful. I am so glad that all of you found this so helpful. Zach, could you please share our INTL ADM email account again, please? We would love to be available to you for further questions. We do have options on our website for webinars that we will start up again in July, and also one-on-one appointments with Zach, myself, or Sam in the office as well. You could choose to have an individual 30-minute discussion with Zach. And that link can be found on our website too.
Yep, so I've shared a lot of websites. I'll just keep on sharing them. I have a few more links. If you want to take a virtual tour of Calvin as well, to kind of like click around on the different places, I'll share that too. It's a fun activity to engage in.
Yes, thank you, Zach, for sharing all those. So Hesna, at this time, I'm not quite sure if you wanted to do a wrap up. It appears as though all of our questions have come through. And at this time, we are done with the presentation.
Yes, thank you very much for your fantastic presentation, Tara and Zach. We believe it was a really informative webinar for the attendees.
Wonderful, thank you. And I do hope it was helpful. Don't forget to ask us further questions. Thank you all for attending.
Yes, also I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Calvin University ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için chat kısmında paylaşılmış olan mail adresinden iletişime geçebilirsiniz. Aynı zamanda linkleri incelemenizde faydalı olacaktır. Umarım sizin için de faydalı bir webinar olmuştur. Hepinize iyi hafta sonları diliyoruz. Thank you very much again, you guys. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Thank you. Everyone have a good evening.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.